Okay, making videos is not usually my thing, so forgive me for the quality on this, but I just wanted to point out real quickly what you're going to want is, if you can see this, you've got your color A, that's your row of knit stitches on the outside, and then this is your color B, and you want all the way up each side this column of color B to cross over the various stitches going all the way up so that you have a nice smooth line of color B coming up on either side of your cowl. Hopefully you can see that. So it was looking a little bit garbled on your sample. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. It's not quite as neat and pretty, but again, you just sort of have these columns disappearing into the edge. Oh good, here comes my cat. So I thought I would just go over again really quickly how to go about those decreases. This is just a little swatch I've got where the orange is my color B and the gray is my color A. This would be the right side row where the color B is making these columns and color A recedes into the purl stitches. On the opposite side, you of course have the opposite. And you can see here I've done one decrease on each side. That one doesn't look quite as neat and tidy, but you can see how the column of stitches is coming up and crossing over the adjacent columns. And those rows are going to fall all the way up to the point. So on a right side row, I would start with both yarns at the back of my work. I'm going to start with color B, of course. Every row starts with color B. I'm just going to slip that first stitch purlwise. We don't do anything with it. It's just hanging out there by itself now. On either side, we're going to have a color A stitch just hanging out by itself. This first side, I'm going to do a left leaning decrease. So I want that column to lean to the left. I'm going to slip that first stitch with its yarn over knitwise. I'll show you that again real quick. So there's my stitch with the yarn over. Slip it knitwise. I'm then going to take the next stitch with its yarn over and the adjacent purl stitch. I'm going to go through all three of those strands and knit them together. Then I'm going to take that first stitch with its yarn over and pass that over that stitch that I just worked. So there again, you can see that I have this orange column coming up along my edge. It's over the top of everything. Then I'm going to just bark one or slip one yarn over and bark all the way to the end as normal. Until I get to my last 5 stitches. And you know you'll be at your last 5 stitches when you hit a purl stitch and you have 2 knit columns still remaining. This is one stitch, my color A, hanging out all by itself at the edge. The knit column with its yarn over is stitch 2. The purl stitch is number 3. Next knit stitch with its yarn over is stitch 4, and this purl stitch is stitch 5. So the directions say to go ahead and slip one yarn over. Then you're going to slip the next stitch knitwise. You're going to knit into that purl stitch. Then take this stitch with its yarn over, pass it over the stitch you just knit, put that back to your left hand needle, take this stitch with its yarn over and pass it over that one, and then put it back on your right hand needle. So there again, you have a nice column of stitches that's leading up that side. Now with this last stitch, there is no slip one yarn over or anything. It's just hanging out by itself. So with my yarn still in the back, I'm just going to slip it over purlwise. Now I can slide everybody back to the other side. And with my color A, I'm just going to plain old knit that first stitch. Then this one is a slip one yarn over. And then I'm going to burp into the next stitch. And I'm going to do my slip one yarn over burps all the way across to the other side. When I get to these last two stitches, again, I'm going to slip one yarn over with this one, but I can just keep my yarn hanging out at the front because the yarn over will automatically happen when I knit that last stitch. Okay, so we have our column of orange stitches coming up this side. We have our column of knit stitches coming up this side. They should always lay on top. If they're not laying on top, then something has gone wrong. So when we flip it over, we've got our yarns here. Again, we're going to work across with color B, the orange, first. So this gray yarn, my color A, I'm just going to let hang out at the back of my work. Just ignore it. I'm just going to slip that first stitch as if to purl. And then, excuse me here, I've gotten a bit tangled. So I've got my slipped stitch. I'm going to grab my orange yarn and I burp into that stitch. So the gray one's just ignored over here. Then I can slip one yarn over and burp as normal all the way to the end. And when I get to that last stitch hanging out by itself, I just slip it. Do nothing to it. Slide everything back. Now I'm going to work my color A. So that first stitch is a plain old knit. And now I will slip one yarn over and bark all the way to the end. Now I'm at those last two stitches. So there again, I'm just going to do my slip one with yarn held in front and knit that final stitch. So that last stitch still has it, or that second to the last stitch, sorry, has its yarn over partner. This one's just a plain knit stitch. It looks a little bit wonky and funky at first, but it will straighten out when you finish. Sorry, that's the wrong side. But you can kind of make out the garter stitch bumps that I have going on here, and then those brioche knit columns that come out to the point. So I'm going to pause for just a minute, and then I'll start another little video to show you that last little decrease that happens at the point.